Welcome to our final episode of Varsity Clues, Myths and Legends. I'm Jonina Charles.
I'm David Leo.
I'm Bianca Di Felice.
And I'm Alexander Cianfarani.
So what are we going to be talking about today, guys?
Oh, we're going to be talking about myths and legends surrounded by university life on campus.
Nice.
And residence.
Nice.
Residency is the topic of the day.
So I did a little research on where myths and legends originated from.
Oh, tell us.
There are a variety of myths and legends, and the first one that I found were oral traditions. So that is speech, song, folk tales, ballads, chants, prose, and verses. And then there's classic literature, which can be misinterpreted and also changed completely over time. So basically, the way folk tales may have begun or started, after it's spread, it's probably not as accurate as it was when it was first
Well, that's interesting.
introduced, right?
Yeah, so they kind of
It's
like
kind of like
evolve
broken
over
telephone
time.
because
Yeah, basically.
because you just forget some parts or add new parts without even thinking.
Like you're playing broken telephone and it's like a firefighter like went down the pole and then you go 3 people down. It's like, why is my dog digging up a hole right now?
Yeah, so like the stories can get fabricated.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Down
Yeah,
the
I know
line.
what you mean. Yeah.
Like someone could have like not actually died. They could have probably just like fell. And then it gets spreads around that they died kind of thing. So the stories can definitely get fabricated through the years. And because of that, they become myths and legends.
Exactly. And then it inspires popular culture. Like there's so many myths and legends that are in the shows we watch today, or they make up stuff, like they make up mythical creatures based off of mythical creatures from other legends and stuff. Do you guys know any examples of shows that do that?
I think off the top of my head, one show that like has been popular recently would be like Stranger Things, like the whole theme of Dungeons and Dragons that they play.
Demogorgons and stuff.
Yeah, like that whole thing. That game is based off of urban legends and stuff, and like stuff from like folklore and history, and then they brought it to that 80s appeal, right? And then even in that show they have like conspiracies about the government and stuff like that.
Maybe an older movie like Percy Jackson, they go into all the Greek mythology.
Oh yeah,
and
good one.
That's a big one. Those books were really, really good.
Oh, I love those
Yeah,
books.
I was going to say too, there's this show called Yellow Jackets, and it's basically about this soccer team who they get into like a plane crash and they end up being like deserted in this forest and they have to survive. So the show kind of goes back and forth from like them then and then them now. So I feel like it could be a myth because everyone knew about these girls that got into this plane crash and that they were out for like 100 days or something like that. But there are also like things that they not everyone's as sure of, but they know that something bad happened. Like I know there was something involved with like cannibalism and all this stuff, but it's I think relates to like a myth because people could say, oh, they ate each other, but in reality they didn't, or that they did. Like they're not sure because they don't really talk about it. And there's also like something going on where it was like a cult and stuff. So I guess it relates to myths and legends because it's like you don't really know if this happened. And that's like the whole core thing of myths and legends is you just don't know because you weren't there.
All we know about myths and legends are based off of stuff that has been shared with us. So we don't even know how accurate it is. We're just going to believe it. Right?
Exactly.
I just want to go back. Definitely going to have to check that show out. That
It's
sounds really
so
interesting.
good. And it's like it's like good. It's like 90s inspired because the girls were in the 90s and then it was like back and forth between like real life and then and like it's just crazy and definitely messy.
That
So
kind
it's
of
a good
reminds
show.
me also of, I think, Gilligan's Island. Is that with Jack Black? The one where he's in the Bermuda
no,
Triangle?
That's Gulliver's Travels.
Thank you.
Yeah. I knew it started with a G.
It's also very similar
gonna
to
have
like,
to
you know, like Lord of the
edit that
Flies.
one.
I
in,
like
like,
that. Yeah,
school.
that was a good book in elementary
It's very
school.
similar because they're like all in like the forest and they all become like a cult and then there's a leader and people have to like eat each other.
Oh,
they
Lord
have
of the
no
Flies?
food.
Lord
Yeah.
of the Flies.
Good
yeah.
one.
So it kind of bounces off of that a little bit.
Yeah,
That story
everything
seems
is
like-
just intertwined. Like everything is based off of something, and then they just make their own versions of it.
I think like Lord of the Flies especially, like that seems pretty believable. Like if you think about it, like you have a group of schoolboys getting deserted on
an
an
island?
by themselves, like no parental
And they're all,
supervision.
like young.
Yeah, like
Even the girls in the show were like teenagers. Like
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then one of the coaches I think came out, and like I guess like a lot of people had died too, so it's kind of like that stress of
Mhm.
I'm deserted and my friend is dead in the
Mhm.
airplane kind
Yeah.
of thing.
It's messed up to think about, but it's also something that like, you know, we could think it's an urban legend, but like you never know, like something along those lines could have actually happened to have inspired that show. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because like it could have happened like in the 90s, and now we're in 2022, and this can be an urban legend that girls got into a plane crash and turned it all into cannibals because they had no food left. So that's how that show can like kind of transpire into like a actual urban legend.
Why don't we go into a definition of an urban legend?
Tell
So,
us, Alex.
What I found is that it is a form of modern folklore consisting of stories that may or may not have been believed by their tellers to be true. So, as with all folklore that came out, designation suggests that nothing about the story is true, but merely that it's a circulation and it's a variation over time and carries
Mhm.
significance from different communities that preserve and release it. So despite its name, it's not really necessarily originating in an urban area. It could be from a long time ago. But for this reason, they prefer the term contemporary legend.
Contemporary legend, modern
Hmm.
folklore, guys.
I'm definitely not going to go around and call them contemporary legends because I think the term urban legends just kind of rolls off the tongue better. Like you talk to people about urban legends and their mind just goes to like a different place. You know what I mean?
I feel like a lot of people know the
It's just,
meaning
like,
of
so
urban
common
It's
now.
very common, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know of any that you want to share with us?
I've got one actually. It's called the Kidney Heist. Have any of you guys heard of that story?
Never.
It's a pretty popular story actually.
Tell
Relates
us about
back
it.
To
Pardon?
cannibalism, maybe. Maybe I don't know.
Not really
Let's see.
cannibalism.
It sounds illegal, I will say.
It highly
Sounds
illegal.
like the black web.
So there's different variations of the story, and the story has like progressed over time. I first heard this story a few years ago on the internet. So basically, the premise of the story is a young man or a young woman goes to a foreign country. When I heard this story, it was a Latin American country. Brazil, Argentina, or Colombia were like the big names that were brought up.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, the young person, male or female, goes to a country and they meet somebody while out partying, and
Trying to have a good time, not a long
yeah,
time.
well, listen,
Well.
they were having a good time,
Plot twist.
and unfortunately, the person that they meet ends up drugging them after hooking up with them and doing whatever.
Oh God.
Oh, no.
When this person wakes up, the story is said that they are in a bathtub full of ice, and when they look down, they notice that there's a laceration on their body,
Oh, my God.
and they eventually check themselves into a hospital, and the doctor tells them that they have a kidney missing.
Disgusting.
Gross.
Oh no.
How
That's
long were they
messy.
knocked out for?
It had to have been a while to get a kidney
To
out.
get a whole
That's
surgery
so
done, like
Mhm.
that could be like a
wild.
surgery, and
6-hour
then
surgery.
all the it had to have been like a powerful
He
use,
drugged them.
yeah, like
He
drug
or
to
she
get knocked out.
drugged them.
100%.
Yeah, what? Damn.
So there's been different variations of the story over time.
Mm-hmm.
It was first brought up by American folklorist Jan Harold Brunvald. He was the one that brought this story to light, where he said it was possible that this story originated from Turkey, where a man named Ahmet Koç claimed to have had his kidney stolen at the hospital, but in fact, he had sold his kidney himself, and he was just upset that he didn't receive enough payment for it.
What?
So that's really where it originated from, and that's the story that came out of that years later?
That's where Jan Harold Brunvald, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing his name, but that's where he's led to believe where this story's originated from. So from somewhere in Turkey, and it's
Interesting.
so like it makes sense. I feel it makes a lot of sense just because there is you've definitely heard stories of people losing their organs,
Mm.
and there is a big black market for
Mm-hmm.
these organs as well, like a kidney and stuff. Like they could fetch for a lot of money, and you know what? For some desperate people, unfortunately, that is what they resort to. Maybe not everybody agrees with those tactics.
I can't believe though he's like, yeah, I'm pissed I didn't get a lot of money, so let me frame this person for opening me. So he opened himself up.
No,
and
I think
sold his own?
is it. The way I understood is that he just got surgery,
The man in real life, like where the
Yeah.
stories. Well,
like, did he do?
and it was too expensive, and he was mad or something like
yeah,
that.
I don't know.
Always.
It doesn't say if he did it himself or if he had an accomplice with him. I don't
Yeah.
think he would want to mention if he had like an accomplice,
Oh,
basically.
definitely not.
Mm.
But either way, accomplice or not, like that's still to drive somebody to that point to sell your own organs is
Wild
Little-
behavior.
very crazy.
Pretty
Yeah,
nasty.
Pretty nasty.
100%.
But I love these stories though, because you're like, what?
Because there's always a hint of just like unbelievable. There's no way this actually happened, but the rest of it sounds so realistic that you almost have to believe it.
100%. So a lot of people say that this type of story is meant to be a warning for tourists going to foreign countries. So unfortunately for the countries like that I mentioned before, where I heard this story from, like Brazil, Colombia, Argentina, all those like variations, they are unfortunately drawn into this conversation for better or for worse, basically. So basically it's just for like a warning for young, lustful people who need to be aware of their surroundings when going to an unfamiliar place and trying to check out local nightlife. Like you always have to have your wits about you,
Mm-hmm.
right?
100%. Buddy system. Always be with someone.
Always be with someone.
Yeah, especially going to somewhere you're not familiar with. You're just
Yeah.
not sure.
It doesn't even have to be in a foreign country. Like just be
Well,
Safe.
that
Safe.
stuff can happen here.
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
it can happen anywhere.
That's
You just
kinda-
have to
I think
be
that's kinda
extremely
like
careful.
what the belief, like why it's a bit more believable, because you don't have to be in a different country
No, you could
for
be
something
anywhere.
to happen to you,
Some
right?
people are just
Crazy.
like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like that guy, like cut people's faces off and wore it as a mask. Like that's just crazy.
Yeah.
And that was a true story.
Yeah, based on a true story.
Yeah, from the
Mhm.
serial killer who did that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we got a lot of interesting stories sent into us
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
from the last episode where we asked you to send it to our email.
So this is for-
varsityclues@gmail.com.
This is for university life. We're tying this right back into our residence on
Tying it
campus.
back right into our main idea of our podcast.
Yes. So, Bianca, do you want to talk about the first story that we got sent?
So Nathan from Queen's University says that the weirdest thing that he heard was a student in a resident building was walking down a hallway, and someone was walking a little bit behind him, and when he had turned around, they had disappeared.
Yeah, they turned a
What?
corner.
Yeah.
They disappeared. And then
And
they went to go check because they were, like,
There
little
was
behind
no
them.
elevators.
No
like,
elevators.
there was
Where did they go?
nothing
Doors,
nearby.
nothing.
just
And
disappeared.
just disappeared.
It also says #spooky. I would tend to agree. That is scary.
Hashtag.
I
think
That
if
is
I
completely
saw
agree.
that, I would
Definitely
run home
#spooky.
and I would never come back.
Oh, that residence building is not seeing me again after that.
I'd be like, oh, you're a ghost? Say less. I'm out.
Good night.
Good night.
Second story is from Alyssa from Brock University, and she says, I was cooking in the kitchen of my dorm house, making myself a snack when I heard the voice of my roommate from upstairs, as if it sounded like she was getting ready to take a shower. I had assumed that she was at work because I hadn't heard her come inside. I first called back but didn't hear a response. I didn't think much of it, but shortly after, I was watching some TV in our living room when she returned home, and I freaked out because I most definitely heard something from upstairs. We ended up leaving the property and called the police. They reported that nothing was found.
Whoa.
#spooky.
Spooky.
#spooky.
That's also a hashtag spooky. I agree.
I've heard that story though, but like I didn't realize it was from somewhere around here. Maybe like it's a lot closer to home than I thought it would be. Like wild.
Oh. At home kind of legends. I just remembered I have one.
Oh,
I
yeah?
have one. I remember when I was in like elementary school and high school, there was this story that freaked me out. Basically, this girl, she had like a dog, obviously, and she would always put her hand like under the bed to feel that the dog would lick her to know that the dog was there,
Oh no.
right?
Where's this going to go?
So So one night, she'd put her hand under the bed to make sure that the dog was okay in there.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously she felt a lick, right? Turns out that there was somebody under the bed. And the dog was, they
That's
to
sick.
the dog.
That's sick.
So there was
Oh.
somebody in the house, and she'd put her hand under the bed.
How
thinking,
long had this been going on for? Do you know?
This was like something I heard like years ago.
Oh my
Wow.
god.
Like it was,
Goodness.
but I remember people talking about. I just remembered when it was like the at home kind of story.
Mhm.
I just remembered that story, and it freaked me out. I never would put my hand over my bed because, like, I already can't put my feet on the floor in front of my bed because I'm scared someone's gonna yaga my freaking ankles. Like, I can't. Like, I'm scared someone's
Yaga.
gonna grab. Like, when I watched like Freddy Krueger, I don't know if you guys watched like Nightmare on Elm Street. He would like grab people's legs from under the comforters and like whoop them. So after I watched the movie, I was like terrified. I couldn't, like, now my bed is like flat, like no one can go underneath it. I did that on purpose because I'm not trying to do that. But now, like, before I would always be scared that someone was under my, after I heard that, like, the dog was gone. It was a human that licked her hand. So this guy had to be knowing. I don't know how he would have known that the dog would always lick her, but he freaking licked her hand.
Like he's actually out here playing the role of the dog. So that she doesn't know.
I'm like in shock. I've never heard of a story like
Really?
that.
Yeah, no.
I was traumatized. There's a lot of even Casa Loma.
Mhm.
I remember too when I went there in like grade 2. They used to say like you can see like the dead soldiers, and I remember we walked by this
Yeah.
room and people used to say you could see the hands of somebody holding on to the window. I didn't sleep for 2 weeks.
No.
I never
Just
wanted to
like-
go back.
Why is that building still open? Just burn it down.
Like
a
it's
tourist
beautiful.
attraction.
I know it's
Nice
a tourist
castle.
attraction, but
But
like,
that place is, I don't know if it is, don't come for me. But I would feel like older places definitely have history and too many people in and out of that place for years.
Yeah.
oh yeah, for
That's
sure.
true.
That's an old building.
Yeah,
Mm.
and there was like, it was around during the war. Like I know a lot of people, there was a lot of residents kind of living in there.
Mhm.
Residents. So
Tied in real quick.
yeah, and it's been around since like, I think like the 1800s. I don't know. Like a
Yeah.
very long time.
Mhm. I believe so.
You were telling me at Halloween that those are real people? Nah. Someone in there is fake and is a ghost. Like, I can't.
Well, Casa Loma was actually built in 1911.
1911 only.
Yeah.
That
I-
wasn't
Constructed from
that.
1911
thought it
to
was-
Did we talk about
1914.
this in the first episode?
I just did a bit of research.
No, it was the Christie Mansion.
Christie
Oh,
Mansion.
right.
This one was a residence for a financier, Sir Henry.
Yeah, he
Pullas,
built it for his wife. That guy.
but that was in the 1900s.
I could have sworn it was a bit earlier than that.
And then he sold it.
Mhm.
Yeah, because I know when you go in there, they have a lot of like war pictures and
Mhm.
stuff like that. Like I remember when I was like in grade 2, like you could go underground, and underground is where you would put your belongings. Terrified. I walked in that place and people were already talking about there being ghosts and stuff, and I was like, no, not for me. Even though I love watching horror movies, if I'm faced with a real life event like that, I'm out.
I think most people would be like that though.
Yeah, like a lot of
Survival
people love
instinct,
scary
yeah.
movies,
Like
but if they were faced with like
Yeah.
a ghost,
Fight or flight.
Oh,
I choose flight
100.
99, 100 times out of 100. I'm choosing flight.
oh,
Every
guys.
single time.
If I hear
Flying out of there.
let's split up, I'm like, no, let's all go together. Let's get out of here.
Absolutely not.
No shot. What
Oh.
is this? The Scream movies? You're crazy.
Yeah, let's split up. Let's find the ghost
No shot.
and
What are
bother
we?
it.
I think I said this before. This isn't Scooby Doo. We're getting out of here. Like,
Yeah.
No, this is not Mr. Inc. Sorry.
yeah. Do I look like Fred?
Do you see me go Scooby Dooby Doo? No, I'm out. Goodbye. Oh, I have another story, guys. I don't know how they're all coming to me right now. Okay. Did I
Tell
you guys
us.
about
Well, you
the
are a
smoking guy?
resident like storyteller.
Please
so.
tell us.
Well, yeah, these are not really residents, but they're like more urban legend, myth kind of vibe. You know, supernatural, because I like that stuff. But anyway, did I tell you guys about the smoker story? The guy who smoked the cigarette? No?
No.
Tell us right
So
now.
this is
Yeah.
new to everyone. So basically, there's a guy, and he worked in this building, and there was one part of the building where they said you are not allowed to smoke. You cannot smoke there. You're not allowed to.
Mm-hmm.
And one day, he'd went to this area
And decided to smoke it up.
and decided to smoke, like not weed, like a
Cigarette.
cigarette. Because it was like winter time, so he's like, I'm not going outside.
Dying for a smoke.
Like I need to go inside. So apparently, he was whatever smoking, and then he took like another drag of the
Okay.
cigarette and he blew it out.
Oh.
Okay, he blew it out, and when he blew it out, in front of his face there was a face. The smoke formed a face. He never
Jump
smoked
scare.
in that building section again.
I'm sure.
Imagine you blow
Oh, I
smoke
thought
and
you were
it
gonna say you
shapes.
just never smoked again. I was gonna say that's a perfect advertisement to
I
quit
would
smoking.
never work there again. I'm sorry. Like,
Yeah,
I
and in
just
my
saw
2
a
weeks.
ghost.
And he's like a
I'm
macho
out.
guy, you know? And
Yeah, he's
he
a big guy.
Like, that's like scary to me. You know, when you like open your eyes, like I'm scared to sleep at night and wake up and there's just a face.
Even in the shower, I'm like, I don't want to open my eyes
You're
and
washing
see.
your hands.
Yeah.
And then you open your eyes, like like.
I
oh, there's
used to do that. Like when I used to take a shower, you know what used to scare me? The Ring. You guys ever seen The Ring?
Oh, with
No, I
the
haven't.
with the
when
girl
she comes
with
out
the
of the
long
TV.
hair.
Oh yeah.
She used to scare
hell
me. I used to
no.
think she used to live in my bathroom.
Oh heck no, man.
I had to reach around my curtains.
Shampoo
and my,
all up in your eyes because you refuse to close your eyes.
yeah. Start swinging my hands out like you're not coming for me.
Oh my god, I know, and I'd rub it like quickly and be like, rub it.
Or
again.
sometimes you refuse to open your eyes because you just don't want to see anything. You're like, you know
Yeah,
what?
like-
if I close my eyes,
It's
ignorance
gonna-
is
Like,
bliss.
yeah, they'll
imagine
go
if
away.
I was in the shower and the lights turned off, I'd be like, well, I guess I'm doing this blind then
Oh.
because I'm not coming out of this bathroom. Like, traumatized. Like, I would literally would not.
You're like slipping out of there.
The curtain falls, you fall out of the shower. Like,
Coming
no.
out blind looking like
It's like
Frankenstein.
it's like in Psycho when she's just showering. That's my worst fear.
That's a big fear a lot of people have.
Yeah, maybe I
Mm.
wonder if it's a phobia. Because I know there's a phobia of, like, water, but, like, deep, deep water, like, where you cannot touch, even see the ground.
You don't know what's down there.
Yeah, I'd be scared of that.
I mean, the
Get
unknown.
dragged to the bottom of the ocean? No, thank you, sir.
A phobia. I guess that would be the phobia of the unknown, I guess.
Yeah, like I mean, I still shut the lights in my basement and run up the stairs. Like
Oh,
I'm being chased.
100%.
I don't like. My mom was in front of me. I said, "No, you have to go upstairs because if I don't run right now, I'm terrified. Like I'm scared someone's
You have to
gonna
sprint.
freaking pull me.
2 steps at a time. You're out of there.
Yeah, like I never run so fast in my life,
Mm-mm.
and
Track star.
I came
for
like
real.
55 in track and field one time in elementary school. So I don't know where I got this
That
Usain
you
Bolt
needed that.
vibe because I ran up the stairs like my life depended on it.
I mean, I still think it's kind of crazy how we just listen to hear a story and we kind of like feel like we have to believe it. Like we
Yeah.
have no evidence of how real it is, but we'll hear something that sounds a little true, and we'll be like, you know what, this might be true. And then it just like creates a fear in your head because it's literally the
Yeah.
unknown. You never know.
I think that's what draws a lot of people to these types of subjects is like how believable some of
The
them
fear
could
of
be.
the unknown.
Like
Mhm.
all those stories that we mentioned before could realistically be plausible. Like they're not, I'm not going to say they're not fake stories. They could be faked, or
Or they could be.
there could be some bit of truth into them
Yeah.
too, for
I
sure.
mean, going back to oral traditions like storytelling and stuff, that was also a like a traditional thing, I think, for the native people where they would
Well, they never
share
used to
their
write
oral
anything
traditions.
down. They
Oral
used to just talk
traditions.
about
Yeah.
it, right?
that's oral.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope these stories got to you and you want to go research them
Yeah,
because they
I
were
guess-
kind of interesting.
Yeah, one thing you
Mhm.
can take out of this podcast is don't put your hand over the bed.
And
Yeah.
please send us more stories at
varsityclues@gmail.com. I'll say that one more time for everybody in the back. varsityclues@gmail.com.
Yeah, so send us your ideas there. We would love to read them and see what you guys have to say. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Varsity Clues, Myths and Legends. I thank you for listening to our 3 episodes that we have recorded, and I hope you enjoyed your experience listening to us, and we had a great time, so hopefully you did too.
Yeah, I think we could just say like thank you to Emerge, the Emerge conference, for also giving us this opportunity to bring these stories to light and to
Mhm.
put these stories forward for sure. It's been a great time working with you guys
I
here.
agree.
loved the discussions we had. I learned a lot.
Very
I
insightful.
learned a lot. Couldn't sleep some nights, but it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I've been Alexander Cianfarani.
I'm Jonina Charles.
I'm David Leo.
And I'm Bianca Di Felice.
We're signing off. See you later.